Human rights rests on a human dignity. Human rights rests on human dignity. So this is the next one. Human rights rests on human dignity. So the keywords: human rights rests on human dignity. Human rights rests on human dignity. So human rights क्या होगा? Human rights is okay. Right for food. Okay. Rights for employment. Okay. Right against persecution. Okay. The right to prosper. Okay. Human rights. Okay. Right to education. Right to life. Okay. You can have all those words, you can think of. Okay. Right to food, right to employment, right to clean air, right to clean environment. Okay. Right to security, right to political voice. You need not know the exact definition. You can go on. What are the elements of human rights? Right to justice, right to access court, go on there. Rests on means basically depends on. It is based on. It is contingent on. It is related to. Okay, that this is linked to. Okay, this is what the meaning of the word rests on. Rests on means depends on. It's based on, contingent on. It is related to. It is linked to. Okay, this is what the meaning of the word rests on. Human dignity means honor. Human dignity means self-respect. Human dignity also means pride. Human dignity also means honesty and authenticity. Human dignity. Okay. Anybody knows some other words of human dignity? It's about genuine equality. Okay. Human dignity. What does the word human dignity mean? Honor, self-respect, pride. Okay. It means authenticity, honesty. It means life with a purpose. Life with purpose. Yes, it also means a noble life, a noble and a virtuous life. What is human dignity? A noble and a virtuous life. Yes, agreed. Okay, noble and a virtuous life. Now, before you decode this topic, okay, a very important test is, can you think of what is the context of this topic? Why do you think this topic was asked, and why does it hold relevant for us? Okay, that human rights is based on, human rights rests on human dignity. Can somebody tell me? Okay, what is the context? क्या context है? This rests on the fact that many see see human rights as mere governance issue. Governance issue. Okay, many see human rights as a judicial process. Many see human rights more as government's obligations. Okay, human rights is seen more in terms of okay, what we can fight and achieve. Okay, can you all see this? That human rights को क्या हुआ है? It has more like a governance issues. कि law बना तो human rights is done. Okay, you have some provisions, human rights is done. I go to courts, the courts say yes or no, human rights obligation is over. Okay, more see human rights as mere an institutional setup. Yeah, I have a commission for minorities, human rights is done. I have a commission for women issues, human rights is done. I've set up a commission probably for Dalits, human rights is done. Okay, or I made a school, so I have guaranteed education. So human rights is seen mostly in terms of institution setup. It is seen more in terms of what we can fight and achieve. Okay, so we are fighting for something, it's my human right. I get it, it's my human right. Human rights are more like government's obligations. We don't see human right is also a part of our own personal convictions also. Human rights is not merely a judicial process. Human rights is not merely a governance issues. Okay, so this is the reality to some extent. Okay, so what this topic is saying is human rights is not simply this. Human rights, what's saying is human rights is actually more than mere okay, laws and institutions. It is about a true mutual respect. It's about true mutual respect. Human rights is about honest and virtuous efforts. Okay, human rights is about honest and authentic efforts to accommodate all. अब टॉपिक समझ में आया आपको, all of you? That human rights is not merely laws or institutions. It's about true mutual respect. It's about honest, virtuous efforts. It's about authentic efforts. Okay, it's about genuine care. It's about genuine care and concern, not a superficial laws and institutions in place. So human rights rests on human dignity. So if you can't respect somebody genuinely, if you cannot acknowledge and accommodate somebody genuinely, if you cannot have authentic efforts that comes from your deep moral and virtuous motivations, you cannot have human rights. So human rights is not merely the legislative or the constitutional obligations alone. Okay, so if I am rephrasing the topic, Okay, the topic rephrased is that genuine and honest commitment to human rights isn't about fight and struggle for employment, for education, okay, for food and water, okay. Rather, it is more about a deep and authentic respect, okay, and a deep regard, okay, which has okay moral and virtuous basis in human interactions. This is how I will rephrase the topic. Genuine, yes, absolutely. Okay, genuine and honest commitment to human rights isn't about fighting and struggling for employment, fighting and struggling for education, for food and water, and equality of life. Rather, it is more about deep and authentic respect, about deep, okay, and a genuine regard for the others, deep regard which has moral and virtuous basis in human interactions. Like otherwise, it's all a facade. It's an act that we are putting up. Is it okay? So true human rights, okay, true human rights flows from, or human rights is inspired by honest, okay, accommodation and acceptance of honor and respect for others, and not merely about judicial recourse and agitation to secure okay rights and power for oneself. Okay, we talk about human rights. It's not merely about, okay, taking control of power. It's not merely about, okay, taking control of the institutions. It's about, okay, true honor. It's about respect for others and not merely a judicial recourse or agitation. So now, how do you give reasons for this? Reasons is that human rights is about true and honest, okay, humane sentiments, and not just, okay, a fight for power posturing. Okay, ह्यूमन राइट्स जो है, जो ट्रू ह्यूमन राइट्स है, इट्स अबाउट ऑनेस्ट ह्यूमेन सेंटिमेंट्स. Okay, yes, and not merely a fight for power posturing. You want control. Okay, human rights human rights is about granting a life of dignity to all, and not merely an excuse okay, for agitations, okay, and conflicts, okay. Human rights is about okay, an inner feeling of being respected, okay, and not about possession of goods and life, okay, goods and material for comfortable physical life. The human rights is a feeling of being respected. It's a feeling of being honored, okay, a sense of true worthiness rather than simply possession of goods and material for comfortable physical life. Is it okay? Okay. Why is human rights about human dignity? Why is human rights, okay, based on human dignity? Why? Okay. So if I refute this, it is possible one can have okay, all worldly comforts, but lives in a state of okay, continuous fear and loss of face and prestige. Is it possible? It's possible, okay, that one is having all worldly comforts under human rights. I've got good water, I have a house also, I may have the best clothes to put on, I'm educated also, yet the person lives in a state of continuous fear and with loss of face and self-respect. इसका example क्या होगा बताओ? What's the example of this? The best example होगा, okay, the status of many women in a society, the status of some of the minorities in a society. They are reduced to the second, third class citizens. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. This could be the status of some of those social groups, okay, that are denied okay, dignity of life and labor. You understand what I mean by refute? Okay. You understand what I refute? You talk about the opposite one. That is possible that some people are having all worldly comforts, some people have the best of lives, but they live in a state of continuous fear, a state of loss of face, loss of self-respect, loss of prestige. Yes, Gandhiji was an example of that. Okay. It was not merely about getting a seat. It was about the dignity that he deserved to be on that train because he had paid for it and be treated as any other educated and self-respecting individual who lives like a regular human being, and not simply that I want a seat. Okay, not simply the comforts of some type of conditions we live in. Okay, is this topic understood now? What I mean by reasons and what we mean by refute. Yes, yes, absolutely correct. Indra Nui, why Abhishek Indra Nui? Some incident around that, I do not know. Maybe you are talking about some anecdote from her life. I am not very sure about that example. Anyways, if you know, please use it. No problem. Acha. Now, now you will relate this. Okay, now you relate this. Relate this with India. In India, you can talk about the status of Dalits. You can talk about the status of women. Okay, you can talk about the status of certain racial groups. Okay, think of the north-south divide. Talk about the divide that we have for the northeast populations. You can talk about the status of some of the minorities and tribal groups. Okay. Okay. So relate this from Indian example. That human rights is not merely about. In fact, a very big debate you can have here is around the debate of reservation. Not all of you can relate to this. Okay, just because some are given some position with reservation does not mean that they are actually acknowledged as one among the others. Okay, so some of you who have lived the unfortunate life of being on the deprived societies, you would know this. Even if you have a respectable job, if you have a good house, you probably are also having good money, does not mean the society sees you as one among the others. It's a tricky area, okay? So if you can debate this properly, please do this. Okay, I think a convenient one would be talking from the women perspective. Talk from the women perspective. Number two, relate this with some movies or some books. Can you think of some books or movies? A Life of Dignity. Okay, can you relate with some movies, some books? Okay, I can think of one movie, In Pursuit of Happiness. In Pursuit of Happiness. Have you seen this movie? The spelling is with Y. Happiness. Will Smith का. Okay, fine. Jai Bhim. बहुत news में है. Okay, Jai Bhim. You can talk about this. Yes, you can talk about this. Jai Bhim. Life of Dignity. Okay, fine. Forrest Gump. Absolutely good. Good, very nice. Forrest Gump. Okay, he kept on struggling his way. Of course, he didn't realize many of the things. But yes, Forrest Gump too. Correct? Okay. So pick up some examples from this. And if you know about, if you talk about events, Gandhiji's life and the Chora Chori incident, it was about dignity of a struggle, a fight. It was about respect for non-violence. It was for respect of some virtue he stood by. Okay, so human rights is not merely about freedom. So if you look at Gandhiji's life, okay, freedom is not mere Okay, self-rule is not mere self-rule as human rights, but also the dignity and honesty in respecting life and property of others. ठीक है? Yes. Can you link this now? Okay. So human rights struggle is sometimes okay wrongly used as a political tool, is used as a political tool, okay, for power struggle and not a genuine regard for rights and respect of others. Okay. In this, can you see this anti-vaccine movement? Can you see this anti-mask movement? Can you see this? Some people think it's our human rights, we will not take vaccine. Our human rights will not use masks. This is extreme irresponsible fight for individualism and personal right. This is not about respect for others. Okay, so it is more of a ego thing. Can you see this, all of you? Okay, that human rights you are ignoring, okay, respecting others. You are ignoring being responsible for others' lives. Or think of how some agitations end up disregarding public safety. Okay. So human rights, like what happened in case of that Trump and okay, the forcing into Senate. Okay, as a human rights, total disregard for peace, accommodation, proper process. Is it okay? Yes. Is it okay, all of you? Or what the terrorists do? What the terrorists do? Okay. So in the name of human rights, okay, they end up disregarding the survival of others, disregarding the lives of others. Ho jayega, all of you? Acha, now, can you relate this to some values? What values will you relate this to? What values will you relate this to? You relate this to, again, empathy. Okay, mutual respect, authenticity, being honest, authenticity and honesty. Okay, yes, absolutely. Patience and tolerance. Every abstract topic can be related to some set of it's a value systems. Some set of value systems. If you are relating this to movies, relating this to books, or personalities. So a very good book will be My Experiments with Truth. My Experiments with Truth. Okay, or personality, you can talk about Netaji Subhash Bose. Okay, Subhash Bose. You can talk about the works of Ambedkar, who genuinely fought, who genuinely struggled for dignity, self-respect. Okay, you can talk about some movements, genuine movements. Okay, the Justice Party movements, or women movements, fighting for self-respect and dignity. Because the human rights is not merely about some procedural aspect. It is not merely about some judicial process or some law. Yes, Vaikom Satyagraha, fine. Take up examples from there. Okay. And finally, what can you recommend? Recommend is that we, again, the tolerance, okay, we need to have a culture of respect. We must be accommodating, which means some kind of social awareness. It's about education. It's about socialization and upbringing of children to respect, to genuinely respect diversity, differences. The role of media in furthering the sense of right, the sense of mutual coexistence. Okay, all of you, fine? The same one. You first rephrase, give reasons, try refuting, relate with something or draw relevance with something. You recommend your suggestions. What can we do?